Hey there everybody, Brad Geiger here with another episode of Webcomics Weekly. And as you can see, it's summer, which means that I'm spending a lot more time at home. This is my kind of secondary studio. It's a spare room that I work out of in the house when I'm not at my actual studio. Get used to this, the little Godzilla collection up there. You're going to be probably seeing a lot more of that. One of the nice things about being a full-time web cartoonist is I have flexibility to spend with my kids in the summer, and that's exactly what I'm doing. In fact, this very recording is probably going to be interrupted at least once by my younger son, who has a friend over. They're down at the park playing Frisbee right now, but I fully intend them to come back, and when that happens, it is likely to be loud, as happens with 11-year-olds. But this, just to say, this is where I am right now, and you'll probably see more than a few recordings that look like this. As you can probably also tell, I'm still working on getting the lighting just right, and that's also probably going to be something that I work on through the summer. In the meantime, here's our topic for today. If you were to do it all over again, what changes would you make? This topic came up recently when Scott Kurtz was down at the National Cartoonist Society weekend a few weeks ago, and he happened upon a syndicated cartoonist who was looking to relaunch a now defunct syndicated comic strip as a webcomic. And he was kind of picking Scott's brain, and Scott called me up and was telling me about the conversation, and we got talking about it. And it's like, it was yet another one of those topics that made me realize how much webcomics have changed since we all launched this thing around 2000. And this is why. For years and years, I've always told people that you should always have your own website. And to be fair, I still think that that's the case. I still think there's value in it. But if I was coming to this completely new, like this guy is, and have no background in doing a WordPress site, and maybe don't have the aptitude to do that site, would I really be pushing a newcomer like that into a situation where he's got to run a WordPress site? And the answer is, I don't think I would. So then the question becomes, number one, why not? And number two, where? Well, number one, why not? For that reason, mostly it's that it's even with things like Comic Press and Comic Easel, getting off the ground is very difficult. And one of the main reasons to have a WordPress site would be to control your commercials, your advertising, I'm sorry. And again, since ad views really aren't a player in modern webcomics, that takes that impetus right out, and we don't have to take that as a given any longer. We don't have to bow to the ad view gods, as it were. And between that and just the buy-in, there's a lot of stuff to really get your site up and running. For a newcomer, I don't know that I would suggest that. I would have it as maybe a 2, 3, maybe 5-year goal to start to build your own website. But just starting out, just starting to build traffic, just starting to earn readers and so forth, I don't know that I'd do it. So question number two, where would you point this person to? Well, the first thing that comes up in everybody's minds is Tumblr. I'm going to take this with a grain of salt. Back when Tumblr was undisputedly a traffic giant, where you could really build traffic on Tumblr, even back then I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't figure it out. I could not make Tumblr work for me even when it was at its prime. However, I think that we can all agree that Tumblr is not in its prime anymore. Even my hardcore readers and people that I follow on Twitter and Facebook and so forth, even the hardcore Tumblr people are like, nah, it's not what it used to be. I don't know that I would point somebody towards Tumblr. That leaves us with a few others. Tapastic? Well, when Tapastic did that rights grab with their terms of service and tried to sneak it through, and then watching how they handled that, situation told me a lot about what Tapastic was all about. I immediately deleted my mirror site. I had a mirror site for Evil Inc. Set up on both Tapastic and one other source. And immediately when I saw what was going on Tapastic, I made the decision for me. I didn't want anything to do with it. I deleted my account and never looked back. What does that leave us with? Well, the next one that I also mirror on, that I actually get really significant traffic from, and that is, surprisingly enough, Line Webtoons. And I realized in talking to my friend Scott, this is what I would suggest for this guy. I would do Line Webtoons if I were just starting out today. I mirror Evil Inc. on Line Webtoons, and it delivers really, really impressive traffic. It's got a setup where you can link to your Patreon. It's baked right in. The interface is good, and I'll be honest with you, even more than a standard WordPress, Comic Easel Comic Press setup, I like the reading experience on Webtoons. I actually like Tapastic's maybe a little bit better, but Tapastic never delivered me the traffic the way Webtoons does. But it's a better reading experience. You automatically baked into that. You've got things like responsiveness. This Line Webtoons has its own app. People can read it on their tablets easily. They can read it on their phones easily. That stuff is baked in. You don't have to worry about doing plugins and then getting plugin conflicts and all that kind of stuff. It's right there. It's literally plug and play. And they also do things like Patreon. They've got a decent commenting system there, and I'm relatively confident in my ability to direct traffic there. That's my next concern about all this, is if and when I'm ready to take my site to its own level, if I want to have my own URL, which I think that's definitely got to be a 2 to 5 year plan sort of thing for somebody starting out. You eventually are going to want to have your own URL. You want to have a place where you are in as complete control as you possibly can be. Tomorrow, if Line Webtoons goes belly up, you've got no control about that. If Line Webtoons decides to change their terms of service to something that you don't agree with, you don't have any recourse on that either. At some point, you want a place where you can call the shots, and that's your own URL. At least that's your best shot, is having your URL. So where would I point somebody to? In the initial stages, Line Webtoons with a 2 to 5 year plan of moving, or at least mirroring, the comic in two places, one of which being Webtoons where you've done your traffic building, and one of which is the URL that you've got, with the idea being that gradually you want to move things to your own URL and then mirror on Webtoons, or whichever comes out later, because we're in a constant state of flux in webcomics. There's going to be something else come through. With Tapastic, I have the feeling that there's a lot of people that left Tapastic. That means that there's a lot of people moving to Line Webtoons, and it also means that there's somebody else watching all this, making their own hosting situation that's going to bring all kinds of things that we haven't even thought of yet. That's nothing but good news. It's a reason to stay fluid. It's a reason to stay flexible. However, what is not the case any longer is that I don't think it's as crucial as it was, let's say, 5 years ago, to start on your own site and mirror other places. I think now the right move, the better move, the beneficial move is to start on a place like Line Webtoons and then gradually move over to your own URL when you can build that kind of traffic. In the meantime, man, I would focus, again, I would focus on the comic and spend as little time on that other stuff as possible, and that means that a hosting issue like Line Webtoons is going to be super beneficial to me. It's going to be the right thing. It's going to allow me to plug and play, get that sucker up there, and go back to focusing on the comic, because especially, I don't care if you've been doing this for a while, if you're starting something new, your first 2 or 3 years are going to be solid learning experience. You should be focusing on that and spending as little time and trouble and mind share on the other stuff is possible. And a site like Webtoons is perfect for that. And believe me, no one is more surprised than me to hear those words come out of my mouth. But honest to goodness, if I were starting all over again, I'd be doing a site like Webtoons. Hit the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you agree. Is there one that I missed? I hit Tumblr. I hit Tapastic. I hit Line Webtoons. There's a lot of other ones. But tell me, I'll tell you right now, don't mention Smack Jeeves or Drunk Duck. Those have too much baggage. My initial and my ongoing attitude on those is that you're going to be judged by the company you keep there, and I'm telling you, most of the comics I see on those sites do not show me a whole lot that I'm thrilled about. I know that's kind of, and maybe that's just me. Maybe that's me. Maybe you can form a compelling argument for one of those. I take those right out for me. But maybe you can form a compelling argument. Hit the comments. Let me know what you think. This is Brad Geiger once again for Webcomics Confidential, and we'll see you online.